All right, gang, we've covered a lot of ground here in these videos. We've talked about kind of the purpose, the three things you want to focus on. We had when it came to the overall structure of our meeting, we have, our intro. We have a three-part meeting process. Part one is, aspirational or inspirational. What do we want? Like, what makes retirement awesome? Part two, faith and family. And then part three, the role of planning. Now it's time to wrap it all up. Let's share our screen so we can do that. And at the end, remember, one of two things are now going to happen, right? One of two things are going to happen. Super important. Um, we either want to bring them to our strategy meeting, our second meeting, or it's time to part as friends. So let's imagine that we want to take them to a strategy meeting. This is going to be the majority of people. And so what we like to do is we just say, okay, kind of we're at the end today. So based on this conversation, it seems like it's pretty obvious that our next step is to visit again and go over a strategy meeting with you. And this is where we're going to pull out this document again. And we are going to clearly say, here's what happens in that meeting. We are going to be looking at your income, your investment, your tax planning. And this is kind of important, so I've got the words here, right? We are going to take a high level look at how you're doing. If you're doing well, we will tell you that. If you have an opportunity to improve, we will also tell you that. And if we can be helpful, we'll share a pretty close idea of what it would cost to work with us should we decide to work together. And quite frankly, normally by the end of this meeting, we have a pretty good idea whether or not that would make sense. Are you comfortable? So, hey, normally here's what we're going to do in that next meeting. We're going to look at your areas of income, investment, tax plan at a high level. And if you're doing well, hey, that's great. We're going to pat you on the back and say, great job. And usually there are some areas where people are doing well. If there are areas you can improve, we'll share with you, hey, here's an area where you can improve. And here's how we would help you improve here. And here's essentially what we would charge to work with you. Normally by the end of this meeting, we have a pretty good idea whether or not it might make sense to work together. And that's where mutual commitment comes into play. And we start thinking, all right, might be time to start moving money to either Fidelity or Schwab and moving on to this next step. Now, remember, any fees that might apply, we don't start charging you right then and there. We have to go through this entire third section before we can start charging fees because we need to get to an agreement, a final agreement of, hey, this is exactly what we're going to do for you. This is exactly what it looks like, right? So, we're not going to be making final decisions here. It's just, yeah, looks like, this is working its way the way that makes some sense. So tell me, does that all seem comfortable to you? And if they don't say yes to that, then there's no reason to move forward, right? They got to say yes to that, or why bother? So there you go. That's how you handle it if you want to move them to the next step. Now, what if you don't want to move them to the next step? Ah, fiddlesticks. What if we don't want to move them forward? Here, good enough. This is good enough. Um, what? Let's say for whatever reason they're not a good fit for us. Just find any area where you can add value, and I don't care what it is. I'm going to give you the most common situation. We have a do-it-yourselfer. He does all of his own investment planning. There's not a chance in the world he's going to give up money to anybody because he's told you that, right? And on top of that, all he's there for, because he's brilliant, of course, is he just wants help with tax planning, right? So here is how I'm going to add some value. I'm going to let's go ahead and pull this up. This is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to pull up right here. Dun, 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 I'm going to pull up our tax foundation.org. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull this up because this is the most common situation. Under data, I'm going to put my cursor. Notice as you move your cursor, different things come up below. I'm going to put under data. I'm going to go over here to the data areas called federal tax, and I'm going to click it. I'm going to do this live in front of him. And then I'm going to go down where it says income tax brackets, and I'm going to click that. And I'm going to come down here where it says 2025 tax brackets, and I'm going to click that. And now I can go ahead and scroll down here. And these are the tax brackets. And if it's a do-it-yourselfer, guess what? He probably also does his own tax return. But if he has a CPA, I'd say this is a conversation you need to have with a CPA. Or if he does his own tax, I said this is what you need to do. Pull out your TurboTax and look and see what is your taxable uh, um, income. What's your taxable income? How do we get taxable income? You start with their AGI, adjusted gross income, and you subtract from that the standard deduction. For a married couple, the standard deduction is about 30,000, and you can even scroll down here and show him this. Say, by the way, you can go to this website. This is why I do it in front of him, so he can go to it and he can do it himself. And you go down here and look, here are your standard deductions right here. For a married couple, it's $30,000. And if you are over 65, which a lot of these people are, that's another 2,000 for single or 1,600 for joint. So it's basically $3,200, right? Because there's two of them. 1,600 times 2. So 31,600 is your standard deduction. But wait, there's more. With the OBB, the one big beautiful bill, if you're over 65 this year through in 2025, 2026, 2027, 2028 for that 4-year period, each person over 65 gets an additional $6,000 on top. So if you're married and you're both over 65, you get 30, what is this? 1,600 times 2, 3,200. So, mm, mm, I'm sorry. Duh, 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 duh. This is where I just had a brain fart. I'm sorry. You're going to want to Google this number, right? Is it 1,600? Let's Google this right now. Is the $1,600 standard deduction having a joint? This is what I do when I have brain farts. I just do this live. Is a $1,600 standard deduction applicable? I'm sorry, for joint filers over 65 per person. There. That's what I'm asking. I think it is indeed based on each individual. So each can claim. So you get 3,200. Okay, good. That's what I thought. I was having a brain. Sorry. So here's what we can tell them. If you are married and you're both over 65, 30,000 is your standard deduction. On top of that, 3,200 on top, because 1,600 per person. So that's 33,200. And on top of that, because if you are married filing jointly and you're both over 65 in 2025, 26, 27, 28, the one big beautiful bill gives you an additional 6,000 per person on top. So it's additional 12,000 on top. So 32,000, 33,200 plus 12,000. It's like $46,000 basically. Okay. A little less. So basically, if your adjusted gross income is $100,000, you subtract like 46,000, and you're down to 54,000. You are in the 12% bracket. Wherever they are, I tell them, find out where you are taxable income, including the 6,000 per person, and make sure you at least fill up your tax bracket with Roth conversions. So if you're 50,000, you can do 46,000, do 45, do a little less, give yourself wiggle room. If you're up here, let's say their adjusted gross income minus their deductions is 120,000. I'm going to say, look, you've got at least fill up the 22% bracket. And why do you do that? Because look, if you're up here at 100,000 and you're in the 22% bracket, look what happens when one person dies. The surviving spouse at 120,000 goes all the way up here to 24%. So, or if they're here, let's say you're at 70,000, guess what? You jump up here, your surviving spouse goes from 12% to 22%. This is why you do these Roth conversions. So all I'm trying to say is, and I kind of went off the deep end there, and I'm sorry, but this is important. You know how to do this stuff, right? Why am I doing that? I'm doing it because if you don't want to take them to strategy, find an area where you can help them. And here's what they're going to ask you. They're going to say, or they ask me, hey, like, could I just pay you a flat fee to help me do this for me? And this is where I say the same thing every time. Look, yes, you can. Here's the problem. Our flat fee is $15,000. There is no refunds. You have to pay it all up front. It covers tax planning for the next 3 years. This is something that we really built, though, honestly, for business owners who are more complicated. Their tax returns are pretty complicated. You're pretty simple. I don't think it's a good idea for you to pay us 25 or pay us that $15,000. I don't think you should because honestly, I don't think you get the value or the benefit out of it. I mean, let's be honest. You're smart, you're intelligent. You can figure this out on your own or your CPA, or you could go find a CPA and you could pay them and they would charge you a lot less than $15,000. Now, by doing that, it does two things. Number one, hey, it gets them not to work with us. And I don't want someone to pay me a flat fee to do this stuff, right? It's not our core business. It's not what we want to do. Secondly, it makes them feel they're like, hey, this is awesome because yes, you have a way to do it, but it costs so much. Like, and I've had people tell me this all the time. Do it yourselfers are like, oh my gosh, hey, thank you for being honest with me. Like, I agree with you. It does not make sense for me to pay that. And I appreciate that you are ethical enough to, to tell me that. Instead of trying to convince me to pay you 15,000, you're telling me, Mike, you're basically saying, don't do it. And people, they appreciate that honesty. And by the way, if they want to pay us, we will charge them. And that's what our fee is. So always be nice. And then just say, hey, by the way, if you happen to be someone, they're always thanking you for the meeting. Look, if it turns out you're someone that does Google reviews, we'd sure appreciate a nice Google review from you. And, if you've got friends or relatives, maybe they're not like you, maybe they're not do-it-yourselfers to that degree, and they are looking for someone that can help them. If you send them our way, guess what? You can feel confident that they'll go through the same process like you. And if we can help them, we'll tell them. And if we can't, we'll do our best to help and we'll tell them that just like we did with you. Wish them the best. Let them know the door is open to any questions that they might have in the future. By the way, it rarely, rarely happens. All right. Sorry that went a little longer, but that's kind of how it works. There, we have completed our first meeting process. At the end of the day, remember this. What is the purpose of that meeting? Let's learn about them. We don't, it's not, who cares? We're making no recommendations. We're giving no solutions unless in that last situation we're letting them, we're letting them go away or helping them go away. We're not, but otherwise, look, let's just be active listeners. Let's learn all about them. Let's find out what they believe, what's important to them, not what we believe, what's important to them, so that we can be as helpful for them in our future meetings. All right, gang, I think this covers it. Hope you enjoyed the series, and I'll go ahead and sign off.